Welcome to Free Pod. I'm here with me, Bree. I wanted to start off by saying happy World Breastfeeding Week to all the mamas out there. Um, I am hoping to be able to breastfeed. It all depends on what happens, but I wanted to celebrate today, or really this week, because, it's such a beautiful um, thing for the babies. But I will leave a disclaimer that just because breastfeeding is good for all doesn't mean it's good for or just because it comes off as though it's good for all doesn't mean that it can happen or is good for everyone. And it's important that we give grace on both sides of the spectrum. I think that if you're bottle feeding, or you are doing a little bit of both, or you're purely pumping. Um, I think that we are a bit too harsh on each other on what is okay and what's not okay. And I think time has proven that no matter if you were bottle fed or if you were breastfed or if you were formula fed or however way you were fed, you still end up coming out in the long run of such a beautiful people. So I just wanted to add that because I know a lot of people that are very hard on themselves uh, when they're unable to, you know, able to do something like breastfeeding. So with that disclaimer, I wanted to talk about the 5 interesting facts about breastfeeding. One of the biggest things that they say with breastfeeding that it offers a powerful line of defense against all forms of child malnutrition. It acts as the first vaccine for the baby, protecting them against many common childhood illnesses while reducing their future risk of diabetes, obesity, and some form of cancers. Um, there's the 5 interesting facts from the World Health Organization is one, normally your body is ready to feed your baby from the moment they're born. There's this stuff called colostrum, and this is the first milk. It's yellow and thick, and it doesn't have much water in it. So your baby only needs a very small amount of this, which I know a lot of people in my September Due Babies group have been already collecting it. But I think there is a potential risk of putting yourself into labor. Again, all of our bodies are different, and so it depends, I'm sure, on your body. But I know many of the women in that group have already started this. Number two, during breastfeeding, both you and your baby produce oxytocin, a hormone that lowers stress and anxiety and makes us feel connected. Number three, breastfeeding supports the development of healthy gut bacteria in your baby, setting them up with a healthy immune system for life. Number four, breast milk contains antibodies that are tailored to help your baby fight infections circulating in your environment. And number five is that babies usually breastfeed very frequently in the first few days. The more often your baby breastfeeds in the early days, the quicker your body will start to make more milk. So, how did World Breastfeeding Week come about? Well, according to National Today, the World Breastfeeding Week is considered to be one of the largest joint campaigns undertaken by the international organizations such as the WHO, which is the World Health Organization, and UNICEF, um, organized by the World Alliance for Breastfeeding Action. It aims to promote the benefits of breastfeeding, and World Breastfeeding Week has been celebrated since 1992, so basically since I was 2 years old, and includes annual themes such as healthcare systems and women. In 2016, the week aligned its mission with the Sustainable Development Goals and began promoting various strategies to encourage breastfeeding. During the week, all communication platforms inform people on the issue and the interesting history surrounding breastfeeding that many aren't aware of. So, here's a little bit of history. Did you know In ancient Greece, the milk of a Greek goddess was thought to have special powers such as immortality. For instance, according to Greek mythology, Hera's breast milk made Hercules invincible. It also formed the Milky Way. However, with time, the popularity of breastfeeding drastically decreased and women began turning to animal milk. In the 15th century, Europe, cows or goat's milk were often used but considered lacking as they affected the health of the child. Later in the 18th century, flour or cereal mixed with broth was introduced as breast milk substitute. This too proved ineffective, and the search for alternatives for breast milk continued as many women were unable to produce milk naturally and needed another feeding option for their infants. By the 19th century, infant formulas entered the market, and many women ended up abandoning the traditional breastfeeding. In the early 20th century, breastfeeding was even viewed negatively in several countries. That is until doctors pointed out the effects of a lack of breast milk on a child. In the 1960s, breastfeeding experienced a revival and is promoted world over even today. There are 5 important facts about breastfeeding. One is that breast milk helps babies get sleepy. There are hormones in breast milk that contain prolactin and oxytocin. It reduces the risk of illness. It is thought that women who breastfeed are less likely to get breast cancer. Um, the risk of infant death syndrome is also reduced, and breast milk consumes 25% of the body's energy. Now, as much as I am all about celebrating Breastfeeding Awareness Month or week, I also want to again go back to it's not always easy to breastfeed, and that it's important to know that if you can't breastfeed, there are ways to cope. And I want to share those as well because I think that when it comes to awareness, it's an all around awareness. Doesn't have to just be one side of it. There are many benefits of breastfeeding if you're able to do so. And there's still many other things that can happen for you if you're unable to do so. So I wanted to share this as well because I know many people that have also had a very hard time who really, really, really wanted to breastfeed. They tried everything, the lactation consultants, latching, all of the necessary tools to be able to breastfeed. So that being said, how do you cope if the reason why sometimes breastfeeding doesn't work is because there may be some issues with producing an adequate amount of milk. Even if they've given their best efforts, sometimes people just can't do it due to abnormalities, chronic medical conditions such as diabetes, and there's also the struggles with either you're going back to work, not having access to lactation support, pumping supplies, the perceived insufficient milk supply, or simply feeling overwhelmed or frustrated by the process. It's number one to remember, fed is the best. It's important to know that formula-fed babies can and do thrive. It's well established that breast milk is the optimal form of nutrition for babies. However, the American Academy of Pediatrics acknowledges that this is not always possible. And moreover, they agree that fed is best. So at the end of the day, if you really are trying hard to have, you know, a perfect baby and the perfect breastfeeding experience, and you can't, just know that it's not a lack of trying, and that as long as your baby is fed, that's the most important thing. It doesn't make you less of a mother. And it's really sad in the mothering community that if it were our children, we'd be able to give like this beautiful advice and give so much love and support. But when it's other women, we're so harsh and we attack each other of who does what better. But it's so important to know that either way is beautiful. As long as your baby is fed, that's important. So another way to cope with not being so the important facts to take from this is that breastfeeding doesn't work for everyone. There are about 60% of mothers that don't end up breastfeeding for as long as they intended, um, and that you're not alone in this experience. And it's not a reflection on you as a parent, as a person, and as a mother. Also, not breastfeeding doesn't mean your baby won't be healthy or well fed. Formula is a healthy alternative to breast milk, and your baby will be just as happy, loved, and nourished as a breastfed baby. And the other thing is, all experiences are valid. There are many different experiences and ways to feed your baby, and it's valid either way if you choose breastfeeding or if you don't. And the important positives to embrace are that while breastfeeding has its own health benefits, formula feeding offers distinct advantages too. Um, they help infants sleep longer and better. They don't have to feed quite so often, and more than likely, it means you get more sleep sooner as well. And then, of course, um, bottle feeding can be done by anyone, so you can share that with others. And just know that if you are feeling sad about not being able to breastfeed, acknowledge this and express your feelings, and share your grief with a trusted family member or friend or healthcare provider or anybody that you trust, because it's important for you to be able to um, speak this and vent this out and get this out, because you don't want to harbor on it or give yourself resentment because you can't do it. Um, it's not the lack of trying. And the reason why I'm giving you both parts of why we're celebrating breastfeeding, but we're also celebrating the other ways is because not everybody can do one thing. Not everybody can breastfeed, and not everybody want to formula feed. But a lot of times, with the way that life goes and the way that experience seem to happen, it does seem as though there are, um, you know, there are things that hit in life that you don't expect. Um, so a lot of people also feel that breastfeeding is a way to bond with their baby, which it is, but it's not the only way. There are many other ways to bond with your baby, and it's important to focus on those other ways when you're unable to breastfeed. Um, and so just make sure, like, you look into this if you're unable to. For example, there's baby wearing, there's holding the baby, there's skin to skin, there's playing, there's so many things. So, what I would leave with this is that not being able to breastfeed your baby can be disheartening, whether you knew before childbirth that it would be impossible or had unexpected trouble. In either scenario, there are healthy ways to process and move forward through the grief, and while you nourish and bond with your baby in other ways, embracing the beauty and joy of feeding your baby. Whether at the breast or bottle is a good place to start. Likewise, remember the most important thing is that your baby is loved, cared for, and fed, no matter the method. So, at the end, what I would say regarding this episode is that breastfeeding does have many, many benefits, but it does not mean that everyone can do it. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad mom of whatever path you choose or whatever path was forced upon you. Because I know some that they didn't choose the path that they were given, it was forced upon them. So I send all of you love. And I mean, I know I'm still a baby in this mother's world of mothering. It sounds like smothering. I know I'm a little baby in the world of mothering, and I know that I do not have my own personal experience yet. But one thing that I have learned from all of my friends and all of the people in my life is that as women and mothers, we can be very, very mean and hard on ourselves. And then, of course, you have to add on society's take on it. And I think it's very important to know that It doesn't make me any less of a woman if I breastfeed or if I don't. Um, Whatever happens, I'm going to roll with because I've learned that sometimes life hands you lemons and you just have to make that lemonade, even if it's not it's not exactly what you wanted. Um, or, you know, it's just trying to figure it out of how it can work if you do have a chance. But for me, I don't want to put that pressure on myself of this is hardcore what I'm gonna do because I think that would hurt me more than just enjoying the time of having my baby and loving them, and knowing that they're fed. And of course, with the shortage, it's scary as hell of what was happening or is slash happening. But at the same time, um, I do believe that there are many things out there and are resources out there that are available. I know that there are milk banks where there are women that breastfeed, uh, that can breastfeed for you, and you can try to use someone else's milk. I know that there have been other options to formula. I know that there are people that have created little groups to help you know where the formula is at if they ran out. And I know that women are doing their best to help each other in this very weird time. Um, but it's just important to know whatever path you choose. Um, do not feel ashamed of what it is, even if you're someone that just didn't want to breastfeed at all. Do not feel ashamed of what path you take. You're an amazing mother. Your child is going to grow up to be an amazing person because of you, and it's not solely based off of your milk. Now, for those of you um, that see this beauty in yourselves and see this light, continue to do so because, as you know, more so than me, mothering and being a mother is not simple. You have a lot of factors in life, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful thing that you have brought to your baby and your child, no matter what it is. So, with that, you are all loved, you're all worthy, and you're all cherished, and I am proud of all of you. Until next time, on the Brie Pod. Bye.